Hello, and welcome to Community Connectors. My name is John Kerber, and I'll be the host for this episode. As a reminder, the goal of Community Connectors is to learn what it takes to run a thriving community space in the modern era. As a reminder, community spaces are those beloved third places like libraries, parks, museums, coffee shops, etc. Our guest for this episode is GiGi Howard. GiGi is the host of the Drinks in the Library podcast, as well as a librarian for just about 15 years. And she brings her insights on working at the library, as well as being involved in new media. I hope you enjoy this episode with GiGi, and as always, to hear more interviews, please like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube or follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. GiGi Howard, welcome to Community Connectors.
Hello.
So nice to have you here. And so, yeah, I just wanted to introduce you a little bit. So, you are the host of the Drinks in the Library podcast, right? And, it's grown pretty rapidly in the last year and a half. It certainly seems like. And so, and you're a librarian and I believe like a branch manager or something like that as well. And you were just saying you've been in the libraries for over 15 years. Is that
Just at 15.
just at 15 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for joining me, and yeah, thank you for welcome to Community Connectors. So, like I was saying before we started recording, so one of the members of the team, Christian, he had discovered you from your Drinks at the Library or Drinks in the Library, excuse me, podcast, and I was just wondering, I mean, for people that aren't familiar with it, could you just talk a little bit about it? So who's it for? Kind of what's it about? Just say a little bit about it.
Okay. Well, to answer your first question, who's it for? It's for readers, I would
Yeah.
say. So, Drinks in the Library, my tagline is it's the only library where drinks aren't just allowed, they're required.
Yep.
So, every week I interview a guest about their favorite book and we
Okay.
pair it with a drink. And that's just a fun aspect of it. I think my experience over like I said, last 15 years being a librarian is talking to people about books.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this, there's a thing in library world where they say if you go to a job interview, don't tell them you got into this because you love reading. You have to think of a better reason.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've been in the game long enough. I'll admit it, I got into the to this world because I love reading.
Because you love reading and books, right? So
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
That's
I'm not gonna hide.
that's great. Well, and I was wondering too, so what caused you to start the podcast? Is it because of your love of books, of your love of discussion of it? Was it what was kind of the reason for starting a podcast about it?
I think in general that it is so much more interesting to talk to people about things that they love than things that they don't enjoy. And
Um,
I've written book reviews for 7 years. Oh my gosh. I've written for a book list
oh, okay.
for 7 years. It's a great gig.
Yeah.
It's small. I only do about one a month at this point. So with that, you kind of get used to like I liked this, I didn't like that. And there's a lot of book reviewers out there and they'll, say I didn't like this book. And that's totally fine for people not to like something.
Yeah.
But I see in my experience of people saying, I loved this, and then the next person saying, I hated this.
Right.
And so I didn't want to I didn't want to do anything about telling people about books I didn't like. So
Yeah.
I set out to interview people about their favorite book and why.
Okay.
And I think it's so interesting. I always start out the interviews, I ask, where were you or who were you when you first read this book?
Yeah.
Because that kind of gives people a chance to explore themselves, can kind of explain why it connected with them in that moment. And so that's always where we started out a little bit. And that's I think that's integral too. And we're at a point where people's stories are being questioned. We're seeing book bans,
Sure.
unfortunately, here in the US.
Hmm.
And so I think it's really important to say individual stories are important and people finding themselves in those stories is important. And so it's a little subversive, I guess, because I am really trying to make a point with that,
Sure.
but it's through slow storytelling, I think. And yeah, so I started it sort of as a fun project,
Yeah.
and then I I mean, you have a podcast. Why did I? So you know how
Sure.
much work it is. I do one a week.
Oh,
So, I mean,
wow.
that's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yes.
So, but I've
And I
managed,
think I saw that you've been doing one a week for, I mean, almost the entire year and a half or so, right? I mean, it
yeah.
seems like you've been pretty consistent in doing that, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they say is like you have to be consistent with it. So, yeah, I started doing one a week and I guess I could have been less ambitious with it, but at this point, honestly, it's become easier because I mean, honest as you know, interviewing gets easier the more you do it.
Sure.
It's easier to find guests now and I'm really enjoying it and I love connecting with other people.
Yeah. And
I
it seems like you love talking about books and the characters and also how it relates, like you're saying, to people's stories in their lives.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you kind of, I think a few of the interviews have kind of become a little bit of a therapy session.
sure, sure. Uh,
But I love that part too. So, and it's really opened up my world quite a bit because it's not just library people. I mean, I'm interviewing all kinds of people.
yeah.
I interviewed recently, I don't know, she's like a tasteologist,
Okay.
Mandy Naglich, and so she reached out to me because she does all kinds of drinking and food
Okay.
expertise, and she's a journalist. And I would have never met that person, and she was so sweet and wonderful. So,
Well, and that actually brings me to my next question, which is, I kind of assumed from the podcasts that I'd listened to that you were letting the guest almost choose their book. So they were kind of the ones choosing the book. But how do you choose the drink? How do you choose what drink pairs with the book? Because that was a little bit less clear.
yeah, so I always sort of kind of let the guests choose. So, I mean,
Okay.
I'll admit sometimes it is like this is just my favorite drink.
Okay. Got it.
Um, because when I first started it, it really was like just having my friends over
Yeah.
and recording. And so some people need a little bit of liquid courage to
Yeah.
sit down with a microphone in front of their face. So it was an opportunity for that. I will say, as it's gone on, I have become a little bit more like, no, it needs to match up with the book pretty
Oh,
well.
okay.
So that's kind of the goal right now. I'm interviewing an author next week, Naomi Sue Elegant. She's got a great new book out called Ginkgo Season, but in that book, they have lychee martinis, and
Okay.
lychee is specific, comes from Asia, and the book is very much about Chinese culture. So,
Yeah.
I mean, easy with that. It is harder sometimes though. Like sometimes you really
To
have
pair something. Yeah.
to dig a little bit into it. So, but I enjoy that part too. That was sort of a secondary part to the podcast.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's kind of like I've gotten better at it and it's become more fun for me too. So, yeah.
That's great. That's great. Just because you were mentioning something that I think you said was happening in China, I think I saw on your resume or profile or something. Did you live in China? Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
yeah. And I
did.
didn't know if that's something you want to talk about or not, but that's
I can.
but did that have any influence on, your choice of books, on, kind of how you see things, just at the library or in the world now? Did that have any impact on you?
Yeah, 100%. I was only there for a year,
Yeah.
but it was a full year.
Yep.
And I was young. I was just right out of college. And I don't know, have you ever traveled to Asia,
So,
Asian
so I
country?
actually taught English in Japan for
Oh,
about a
so
year around 2002, 2003. And so it stuck out to me. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I think, and when were you in China?
just after 2005, 2006.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I think anyone who, even if you travel to like Europe, right? A
Yeah,
lot of people have been to France and England, and that is different than the United States, but I do think living in Eastern cultures or cultures that are not, I guess how we think in the West, it is so eye-opening
yeah,
that things are different and that life is different, priorities are different,
yeah,
values are different, all kinds of things like that. And I think it really did open up my eyes quite a bit to how different it is there. I was in Beijing
yeah,
and I can't speak to it now. I don't want to
sure.
say that I know Beijing now because this was pre-Olympics and they were gearing up for it and everything.
Yeah,
But, you know, you could go and live in a what I would consider kind of like a middle class apartment, and then walk 2 blocks over and there's people living in huts
Yeah. Hmm.
kind of situation. And then you could go downtown Beijing and you've got your Chanel's and your Versace's and people, billionaires living there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was just so different than anything I experienced. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. And the food, I will say the food is absolutely amazing. That's the thing I
The,
miss the most.
the first place I experienced something like that was actually Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So during
Okay.
that same time, because at the time this was, I don't know, 2003, 2004 timeframe. I remember being right next to the Petronas Towers, which were massive and beautiful and skyscrapers and all that. And then yeah, like you're saying, I mean, 3 blocks down the street, it was literally like shanty towns, kind
Yeah.
of, where people were living, and coming from growing up in Oklahoma in America, I mean, you didn't see that level of kind of disparity, and so yeah,
Yeah.
but
It is totally eye-opening. And so I think having that experience, that point, I went over there pretty green, probably
sure,
pretty naive, I think.
yeah,
I graduated from college and it's very provincial, right? Like everybody is lives like I do or somewhat similar. And
yeah,
I knew, there's economic disparity here in the US, obviously, but to see it to that difference and to see I don't know in Beijing the culture is so different. At night they'll have like dancing circles, like, and they'll all just be out dancing in the park, and there's like loud music playing, and it's all like the senior citizens. And I mean, just so many different experiences I never would have had, so I'm really grateful for it. And yeah, it does change you, right?
yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard to see things exactly the same, kind of afterwards.
Yeah,
After living in a non-Western culture, I would say.
exactly. Yeah,
Um,
exactly. So yeah, I think I learned a lot from that year, so
well, that's great.
grateful for it.
Well, yeah. So I also wanted to ask you. So you've been in libraries for, you
Mhm.
said, just at about 15 years,
Yeah.
and you were saying that really you became interested in libraries because you love books, right? Like that.
Mhm.
That's kind of what you were saying. And for one thing, because you've been in for 15 years, how has it changed in the 15 years since you started compared to now?
Yeah, I think I'm trying, I mean, but from where I started, there's the experience that we had through COVID, and then there's where we are now. You know, we are definitely in a shift of materials for sure. With the pandemic, the Libby overdrive, all of that stuff went through the roof.
Yeah.
We're still seeing a lot of print checkouts, which is good. And I do think that, I don't know if you've seen that study that says millennials and Gen Zers are going to the library more than the Gen Xers and the boomers. So raise the
Yeah.
roof on that. Um, so yeah, trying to think. I mean, my library where we've grown tremendously over the last 15 years. That has a lot to do with the area of that we're in has also grown quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think people should definitely know libraries are not quiet places anymore.
Yeah.
I'm sure you hear that with
The
libraries that you
rooms
work
and
with and the rooms and
yeah.
everything, is that we're having to think about spaces more. You can't, to have a big open library is
Yeah.
tough if you don't have closed off spaces. And so that's definitely, we're working on building a new library coming up. And I've been in some of those meetings and talking about having a separate children's space is really important because kids are
Well,
loud and you want them to have fun. I want them to
yes.
come and learn and feel welcome in the library. We all had that experience of getting yelled at by a librarian when we were kids. And
Yeah.
I really try hard that none of the kids that come in have that experience. I do my best, but yeah,
Well,
those
and
kinds of things have changed. So,
Well, and that's something. So, speaking with somebody a few weeks ago, and they were talking about, kind of just like kind of the podcast, it's kind of the who's it for, but the
hmm
library, and who's it for. So, obviously, you want a space that's kind of, welcome to anyone in the community, but
yeah,
also if people walk in and kind of don't see a place for them, then they don't feel like it is for them, right? If it's all children's programming and they're an adult reader, then they don't feel that, and do you have anything to or is there any thoughts that you have on that? Like, so for example, on your podcast, you have people's favorite books. And it's
Mhm.
fascinating because I mean you've got everything from Man's Search for Meaning to was I think like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe of somebody's or I mean those
Yeah.
that is a vast difference between
Hmm.
ages and complexity and things like that. So is there anything that kind of comes to mind just in the library making it a space for people of different ages in particular when people's favorites can be wildly different.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's really tough because you can't, like you're saying, you can't veer and only serve kids if you're the public library. You kind of have to serve everybody. So, like I said, already like having spaces, but making sure staff are trained to
Yeah,
do a wide variety of things is really important. I think it's great to be able to recommend books to people, but you also need to kind of be able to walk someone through how to create their resume, how to, let's see, well, I was
generally
helping,
speaking, 10-year-olds don't need resumes, right?
right,
So that's
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
totally right.
yeah. I was helping someone fax this morning and, she was like, I don't know why it's not working. And I just stay calm and like, I don't know why it's not working either. And you never know if it was the patron or if the machine messed up. I've seen it all. I've seen all of it happen. So I just like I don't know. We're gonna figure it out together. I don't know if this really is the same as what you were asking, but I
Sure.
really am big on customer service.
Yeah.
I in grad school and also while I was in college, I worked in restaurants and all of those rules were kind of drilled into my head about have how to have someone have a great experience. So I think that's also really important is people to feel welcome when they come in. I think if you're a library manager and you're not focused on that, you should because I get feedback from our patrons that when they come in, they feel like we want them to be there.
Yeah.
And, they will say, I went over to this other library and it didn't quite get the same experience. And I'm not saying we're perfect, but I do really try
Mhm.
to welcome people. I want everyone to feel comfortable in the library, regardless of who they are. And I go out of my way to try to enforce that. So yeah, that's another part of it.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, let me ask you about this just because I thought you'd be a really good guest to ask this question, which is that, you're working at the library and you have for, almost 15 years, so we're right at 15 years. And that is very much kind of an in-person experience and people that are often in the library as well as the ebooks and things like
Mhm.
Libby. But then you're also kind of on the new media side, which is, you've got this podcast, you're promoting it. I see it on, Spotify and YouTube and different places. And I was just wondering, what's your opinion about what's the role for libraries kind of in the new media stage? Because we
Mhm.
see, libraries that are trying some things like that, whether it might be podcasts or YouTube or TikTok or some things like that. Just what are your thoughts on that generally, for
I think if we got a huge billion-dollar windfall at
yeah,
my in my system, I would love to have dedicated, like we have maker spaces that include technology, that include a lot of the things that you need to do things online. I mean, making the podcast has been so interesting to me. All of the things you have to know how to do, all of the technology that you need to have in order to do it. And we're in a time where it is easier than ever to connect. It's easier than ever to put your platform out there, but you have to know how to do it. You have to have the materials. So I think I think it would be great for libraries to not only have that space, but to also have librarians who are trained on some of those platforms. I also, when, we're talking about social media, I love those libraries. Like, shout out to Milwaukee Public Library. They're like crushing it on social media, and all their videos are awesome. And I've seen other libraries are doing it too. And it's like to be relevant, and even if you're a huge organization, your library is huge. Unfortunately, in today's world, you kind of have to also have a little bit of a social media presence. So, I definitely think if your library is able to, you know, add into the budget some focus on doing those things, it's really important. And to support our patrons too, to learn how to do it. I have had people say, well, can you teach me how to do a podcast?
Yeah,
But which I can, it would take a very long time.
sure.
I learned it from locking myself in this room, which is my office, and spending like 48 hours watching YouTube videos on how to
Yeah.
record and how to upload and all of those things. So, but yeah, it would be great to have like a dedicated staff member who would just be available to kind of walk people through all of those things. So, yes, in a perfect world, that's
Yeah.
what we would offer.
Well, great. Well, it sounds like you're saying that, social media could be, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like social media could be useful for both the libraries to kind of promote the space in the library and kind of the community involvement there. But then also you're saying, for patrons, for members of the community to come in to have almost like a recording studio as one of the types of rooms that could be
Yeah.
helpful for, the local stories to get out. And if
Yeah.
somebody at the library knew a little bit about, how to run podcasts, how to
Yeah.
create some of that content. Is that did I
Oh,
catch that?
yeah.
I just want to make sure I didn't misstate what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah. I mean, I think there are places I know about near me that offer that,
Yeah.
but you have to pay for it. And for some, you know, for someone just starting out, they're not going to know what they need to do, and they're not going to have the technology. So if you have like a green screen for your videos or just the technology that's available there, I think that's really ideal. Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's great. And so one thing also is that, your podcast is very engaging, right? So,
Thank you.
how, is there something that you can think of at the library that could help, patrons or community members just feel more engaged? I mean, and I don't know, that could be anything, right? Because
Yeah.
yeah, please. Because like you said, I mean, people that go on your podcast, they're talking about their favorite book. They're sharing
Hmm.
personal stories that, and I don't know if any of that's related or if you've thought about, just how engagement and people can feel kind of that same connection, with their local community and coming into the
Hmm.
library. Just any thoughts on that, anything.
Yeah, I think it's tough, right? Because everybody's busy,
Yeah.
basically. Um, I do think people being aware of what's going on at the library would help them. I mean, we offer so much that sometimes it's hard to get the message out. Yeah, we offer so much that sometimes it's hard to get the message out, and people will say, well, I didn't know that you did that. And I'm like, well, it's on our website, it's on our program calendar.
Yeah.
Summer reading is coming this week, I think,
Yep.
for probably a lot of libraries in the United States, if it's not here already.
Yeah.
And looking at every public library does a summer reading program. And I think that would be an easy way to get involved. I interviewed a guest this week who's in Texas,
Yeah.
and I didn't know that she was going to do this, but she told me all about her library system does 20 different books a year reading challenge. And if you complete the challenge, you get a free t-shirt. And
Okay.
she does it every year to get the shirt,
Yeah.
get the free t-shirt. And doing those sorts of things is important. I think, yeah, we are always trying to get out into the community. It's really important to grow our card holders, everything. If you're listening to this and if you don't have a library card, please go and get one. They're always free.
Yep.
And that helps just support the library. I mean, it's such a great service for everybody. And even if you're not a person that needs a computer or needs help with technology, or you can afford to buy your own books, there's lots of people within your community that need those resources. And I just think everyone should support that. And it's already there and it's free to use. And the library I work at is sort of like a community hub. It's in
Yeah.
a neighborhood in a small town within a big county.
Yep.
And yeah, I just see so many people coming in and they say, "Oh, there's my neighbor." And I'm seeing
Yeah.
them. And it's really, I think I'm reading the book Abundance right now by Ezra Klein
Yeah.
and Eric Thompson. I don't know. Have you read it?
I haven't read it, but no, I know
Okay.
what you're talking about, or that book. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just reading it right now, and they're just talking about how we envision the future. And I think we all need to be really aware of the fact that there's not a lot of third places left. Like everywhere you go
Yeah.
now, you have to pay.
Yeah.
And we don't have these like community places where we can all go. And the library is one of the last places for that.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody just needs to step up and support us.
Well, and this might be too far afield, but I find it so fascinating too because we work with community spaces, right? And libraries, a little bit parks, a little bit museums, and we're starting to. It's that it seems like to make people aware of the places, you have to be on social media. But then at the same time, it feels like social media is isolating people. And so there's certainly
No.
that balance. It's like, you don't want to necessarily promote, social media and people staying more on the couch or having more content. But then at the other
Right.
side, that's where they already are. And so it's like
Right.
if you're not posting there, if you're not promoting, there's almost no way to, kind of get them off the couch and into,
Yeah.
one of these third places. Any thoughts on that? That's definitely something we look at.
Well, I think yeah, you're right on it, and it's something we are looking at. It's a struggle though, right? It sounds like you're struggling with it too. I don't know if you saw it. There was a study by NPR recently. It was basically like Americans want to read,
Yeah.
but and it had all of the reasons why most Americans don't. I think the study said 4% of Americans read more than 20 books last year.
Okay.
Which 20 books is a decent amount.
Yeah. That's significant. That's more than one
Yeah,
a month. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But how do we make, if it's aspirational, how do we make the library a place where people want to go? And that's a really good question. And I think there's a lot of different answers to it. There's a lot of different factors. And it's something, yeah, we're definitely thinking about it and talking about it. And like I'm saying, like this library that did this cool like 20 that was 20 books a
Yeah.
year, and you get your free shirt out of
Yeah.
it.
Yep. Little incentive doesn't hurt for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna try to do, my plan is to do some silent reading parties coming up because I've seen those online and I'm thinking y'all could be doing this in a library. They're doing them like in bars and things like that, which
Okay.
I get it. That sounds like fun, but I was like, why aren't we doing this in our branches? We
I'm
have the
I'm not familiar
space.
with a silent reading party. What, can you go?
Yeah, it's what it sounds like,
Yeah.
basically. I think it's for introverts
Okay.
to
So
get
kind of like a
together
book
and
club, but you don't say anything. Is
yeah,
that
you don't say anything.
okay?
Everybody comes together and maybe they have snacks or a drink or something, and then they just read all in the same space. So I guess it's a way to be like a little bit of social
Yeah.
time, but also get your reading in and books in. So, but I think it's a little bit of a trend that I've seen going around here. So I'm going to try to recreate it. But those are just little tiny ideas for how to get people in this branches and get people in the building and connected. And yeah, it's good. And also connecting with each other. Because like you were
Yeah.
saying, it's like, spending so much time online. Our attention spans are horrible. Kids are growing up connected to their iPads. I'm sorry to
Sure.
say it, but it's like I'm more outside of libraries. I'm worried about it just for humans in general.
Yeah.
So I'm We'll
Great.
see what happens if we're able to reverse any of this stuff.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm a perpetual optimist too. So I don't, and I
I
remember
laugh.
said like, oh, TV would rot your brain. And I watched a ton of TV as a kid, and
Yeah.
I think generally turned out fine. So, that's,
Yes.
uh,
Yeah, I
well,
agree.
well, wonderful, wonderful. Well, Gigi, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today about this, and best of luck on your podcast and
Thank you.
the drinks in the library. So, yeah, for people that want to know more about your podcast, about you, where can they go? How can they find you?
Uh, Thank you. Well, I'm Drinks in the Library everywhere. So it's drinksinthelibrary.com. I'm Drinks in the Library on Instagram and Threads. And I think those are the main social platforms that I have. I put the podcast goes out everywhere. Anywhere there's a podcatcher, it's on
Yeah.
there. So yeah, you can just look up Drinks in the Library. I even like my best friends are like, you have so many episodes, I can't listen to all of these. I don't expect you to. I really would love it if people just like found a book that they love, like go through the list and find one that you like. Like you said, I've done everything and just listen to the conversation and see if you get something out of it. And it's a lot of fun.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, Gigi, thank you again. And yeah, so nice speaking with you. And
You too. It's a lot
uh,
of fun. Thanks for having me.
great. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Talk to you later, Gigi. See you.
Bye.